We are live, man.
All right.
One more time, right?
Fantastic.
I do really, really enjoy doing these. I mean, like this is probably the one of the things that I hope we figure out a way to maintain doing this after COVID.
Absolutely.
I don't know, like, um, I don't know if we will. Like the frequency is probably not one that I could maintain, but definitely definitely I would I would be in for like we couldn't do 3 a week, but I would be in for one a week. Like 3, like I think it'll be 3 this week, 2 next week. And I'd be afraid that we'd run out of stuff to talk about.
No, I don't think that can happen.
You don't think so? Like, I mean, no. I am very, because it seems like there's a hesitancy by other people involved. Hey, my friend Mandy's watching. Hey, Mandy. There's a hesitancy by the media, I think, to not necessarily cover domestic violence as much as we would like, and so that's really my preference. That's why I want to do more of these. But man, I'd be afraid. Like, could you imagine doing 52 of these?
Yeah.
No, Nancy, don't shake your head. Yes.
Well, I think our framing also includes hope. So it helps to keep it interested in not being stuck in the same kind of framing that, it's a dark issue, but the work that we do is empowering and it's to give hope to survivors. So I think we can do that.
I hope you say something that impactful since we're going to get started here, and now that more people have joined and engaged, right? You just dropped this gem for the pre-show for all the people who were watching at the beginning. I hope you have another nugget for the other people who will join as we move through this conversation today.
That's why you got to get it here early. You
have
to watch us on the warm-up.
Exactly. The warm-up is where it happens. And then there is an official after party for the conversation, and that link will be emailed to you after you donate to Giving Tuesday. So hey, let's kick this party off. It is 2:04. I sent an email out to our board saying 2:05, but if they're going to join, and they will surely hop in here on time. But for those who don't know me, my name is Jeff Brown. I'm the Vice President of Development and Marketing for Partnership Against Domestic Violence. It's an honor and a joy. I absolutely love doing and having these conversations. Not sure if I'd be willing to commit to the 52 that Sam wants me to do, but
I didn't say anything.
but this is not about me. I get the privilege of just being the host. Really, it's about bringing on the experts that really can shed light on whatever topic that we're going to have for these things. And so this time we're going to just talk about PADV in our outreach services to the community. And in our last conversation at 10 a.m., we talked about our mission being to end the crime of intimate partner violence and empower survivors. And I really feel like in my heart that we can't effectively end the crime of intimate partner violence without the work that Sam and her team does. And so I'm just going to give Nancy a second. Nancy's our CEO, so I'll give Nancy a second to introduce herself. Nancy, go ahead.
Hey, I am Nancy Frio, CEO of Partnership Against Domestic Violence. And for all of you that are joining us today, welcome, and we're delighted to have you with us.
Hey, Sam, your turn. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I am Samantha Macedo. I am the Vice President of Prevention and Outreach. And I also have great joy in doing the work that we do at Partnership Against Domestic Violence.
Awesome. Thank you. So, hey, I do want to make sure I do a quick shout out. We have had 14. So for those who don't know, today is Giving Tuesday. And so far we've had 14 people give. And it's amazing just to see the community kind of wrap around the organization. We've never, honestly, as an organization, participated in Giving Tuesday. And because of COVID-19 and because of what we're doing right now with supporting survivors and the ways that we are activating our staff to support survivors differently, we felt like, hey, why not do it? Again, we've never done it. We've never really pushed out Giving Tuesday. So to the 14 donors that have already given, and I promise to do a graphic today with all of your name, or I'll do something to make sure that we can highlight you a little bit differently. But I just want to say thank you. And if you're watching today and you do want to give, we encourage you. We've shared a lot of information in our timeline about Giving Tuesday. And so just so that you know, all of the money that we raise today is actually going to go towards our emergency services program that we're doing for survivors right now during COVID-19. And so that includes helping to pay rent, because obviously one of the things that we know is that for survivor fears that that with job loss, if there's some financial hiccup, they may go back to their survivor. So it's important, or their abuser. So it's important for us to make sure that we provide those emergency financial assistance for women who need to flee and put them in a hotel, or if you're in danger of being evicted and you're a survivor of domestic violence. That's what we're making those funds readily available for. So if you feel so inclined, I'd love you. I have a couple family members that are watching. My cousin Nard is watching, so hey, you should go online right now and donate, and make sure the whole family does as well. But again, today is specifically about how Partnership Against Domestic Violence, what are we doing in the community? And because we live in this revolving story of negativity, I'd love for Sam to share just some positive news that's happened in the midst of all that we have going on. Give us some positive things that you've heard from your staff and your team about what's going on with your survivors.
Well, in the midst of this pandemic, PADV is still helping clients in the community through our legal advocacy program. Those are our advocates who are helping, answering questions, advocating for folks who are trying to obtain a protection order. We are still helping survivors in the community who may not necessarily have come through our shelter, but they are experiencing some difficulties, some challenges during this time with either losing their jobs or having their hours cut off or not being able to go to work. So we're still helping clients that way. And I think that's very important to highlight that. In the midst of this pandemic, PADV advocates are still helping clients in the community. Particularly, like you mentioned, I feel like the most impactful kind of work has been thanks to some emergency COVID relief funding that we received, and being able to help clients who are domestic violence survivors and put that money to good use, and being able to help them either covering their rent, covering a bill so that they can keep safe housing, because their housing situation was in danger. Again, because and we've had cases with survivors who had children who are, got the protection order, and now because their hours were cut off, they couldn't quite cover rent. And so for us to kind of be able to step in and cover that for them was of great help.
Thanks, Sam. And I feel like that I kind of butchered that whole thing in the beginning. And so I do want to give Nancy a moment just to talk about why is providing that emergency assistance so important for survivors right now?
So we work with a lot of survivors in the community who have left the abusive relationship, who may have moved to independent housing and to becoming employed. But the fact that you've made those steps and are moving forward, it doesn't mean that all the pain and hurt and trauma of being in an abusive relationship has ended. One thing that abusers do is they try to break down your spirit and your soul. So you're stupid, you're worthless, you'll never be successful, you'll never accomplish anything. And that message comes through day after day after day. And eventually survivors begin to believe it. And so you've made it, you've got your own apartment, you're working, but now here all of a sudden, oh my God, I can't pay my rent. I can't feed my children. So not only are you have that fear of what that's going to mean for you and your children, it also can bring back all those negative messages that you heard from your abuser when you were with that person. And so for us to be there and to be a place where that survivor can reach out to and we can say, hey, this isn't your fault. This isn't because of you. This is a pandemic that's affecting the world. And you've been amazing and you've been incredibly strong, and we can help you, and we can help with things like rent or utilities, and we can walk hand in hand with you to help you get through this difficult time. But know that you are strong and you're amazing, and those messages that you got before are absolutely not the truth.
Thank you, Nancy. I feel like I have a way of taking something and running with it, and then my mind goes a mile a minute, and how it comes out is just how it comes out. And you make everything seem so concise and very clear, and so I appreciate you so much for that. I do want to ask you a follow-up question: is why are our community-based services so important right now?
Well, I think sometimes when people think about PADV, they think about the shelter. And the shelter is very important for those people that are in that immediate crisis of having to leave and having no place to go. But again, there's lots of folks who maybe they haven't left yet and they're trying to figure out what next step should be. So they're coming to support group to get a sense of what's available to them. And again, to not feel alone, or those people that have left but are still dealing with the trauma. So having someone to talk to, having someone to walk the walk with them helps give them the strength to keep moving forward. So there are many, many victims of domestic violence who need help, who need support, but don't necessarily need shelter services. Also through our community outreach, we do an amazing amount of community education and awareness. So it shines the light on domestic violence and how it's present in all of our community, and helps people be aware of it and be more proactive in addressing it in their circles and in their communities.
Thank you, Nancy. One of the things that I've seen, Sam, from your team that I've loved is just how awesome that they have been to pivot and transition to services are needed. The world can be what the world's going to be, but services are needed, right? And so I have loved to watch, especially like your teen dating violence people in your community. I mean, just the fact that we're now offering virtual support groups, and your teen dating violence advocates are now just being these virtual they're being virtual teachers, right? And so what I would love for you to just take 1 second and tell us about how someone can be a part of the virtual support group, because that I feel like is supremely important right now.
Yes, so for support, we are facilitating support groups virtually, and so to get any information about our support groups, you do have to call our crisis line, and then they'll give you the options about time and connect you to the support group. So the crisis line, you guys should have it, 404-873-1766. Like Nancy mentioned, we serve a lot of survivors who are in different stages of their healing journey, and part of the support group aspect is to have that space, a safe space where you can share your experiences, hear others share their experiences, and it not feel so alone. And the domestic violence experience, it's already a very isolating experience, and now on top of that, you add this pandemic, it can make a survivor feel very alone, and dealing with a whole world of issues. But the support group is one way to connect to empowerment, to an empowering group, and to find support in your community. Like you mentioned, Jeff, I think the interesting thing right now is that our communities we can have community virtually.
Mhm.
It's of course, there's a certain aspect of it that being physically in the same place that feeds into you, but our communities continue even though they are virtual, and you can find a community of support virtually through the support groups.
So if I heard you correctly, and I just want to make sure that because that message was so important, I just want to speak this one directly to the survivor who's watching right now, or to the person who may be watching who has a friend that's in that bad relationship, that they're not alone, right? Like, we're supposed to be social distancing, and that's awesome. And we have to bend the curve, and that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. But just because you are alone doesn't mean you have to be lonely, if that makes any sense. And so what we are here as an organization to do is to provide you with that network of people who, if you are a survivor of domestic violence, you don't have to feel that pain of being alone. And what you're saying, Sam, is to pick up the phone and call our crisis line so that we can connect you to other survivors and with other advocates who can help talk you through some of the feelings that you have. Did I round that out pretty quickly? Pretty good?
Absolutely. I think one of the main things that PADV does through our case management and our work with survivors is rebuilding that support network that the abuser has chipped away. And we see it in, like, for example, the folks who are coming to apply for a protection order. If they come with a support network, if they're coming to apply, but they brought their friend or their relative, they're more likely to follow through with the entire process. So having a support network is so important in that recovery.
So Nancy, so if I'm a friend, right, how can I be that support system for a survivor?
It's really, really important that you are there for the survivor in the way the survivor needs for you to be there for them, and not the way that you think you should be there for the survivor, or that you think what the survivor should want. Many survivors of domestic violence feel very ashamed. They feel very embarrassed by what they're going through. And so you may reach out and say, hey, I'm worried about you. Are you okay? And the person may deny it. And so instead of saying, oh, don't lie to me, I know that things are really bad at your home, that's just going to push that person away. And so what you may say is, hey, okay, I understand you really don't feel like talking, and that's fine. If you do feel like talking, know that you can reach out to me. Let me just go back and say, always, 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 always you make that approach only when the perpetrator is not around and you know that it's safe for that person to talk, because you don't want to do something that's going to put them in more danger. You could give the survivor a hotline number, 404-873-1766. And you could say, you know what, I understand it feels uncomfortable to talk to me. It may feel too close and personal. Call the hotline. You don't have to say your name. You don't have to know what you want. You can just call and talk to somebody. What you don't want to do is say, why are you staying with someone that's treating you so terribly? That's so stupid. Why would you stay and do that to yourself? Because again, that person is just going to feel more shame, more embarrassment, and it's just going to push them away. So to say, I'm here for you, I care about you, you deserve better, nobody should be hurt, and whenever you're ready, I'm here and we can talk.
Thank you so much. I appreciate, I think we've had this conversation before, but one of the things that like upsets me the most is when you hear people say, well, why doesn't she just leave? Like like that really irks me a lot. Now, so Sam, my next question for you is, what do you think has just been the greatest challenge to survivors during this time?
Yeah, definitely. I hear that question so often, and maybe sometimes not exactly framed that way. So if you have a little bit of savings, why don't you just leave? Or if you have family that supports you, why don't you go with your family? So we hear that all the time. I think during this pandemic, our clients or survivors of domestic violence are having to weigh in, do I stay in this relationship a little bit longer, or do I risk COVID, being, affected by COVID. So just to give you an example, there's some places, some counties where you still need to go in person to get a request of protection order, or go in person to request some kind of resource, assistance, food, that kind of thing, So I think a lot our survivors are right now having to weigh in and balance out, can I stand another day staying in this home that is abusive, or do I risk going out of my home that at least I know I have some control in terms of, this is my home. I know what to expect, sort of, and I may know how to manage some of the abuse, and how to kind of not de-escalate it, but kind of step away from it, kind of like leave it alone. So do I do that and stay in this abusive home where, again, I at least know somewhat of what to expect, or do I risk going to a shelter or going to the courthouse to get an order? And that, so they're weighing in these options right now, which again are not, we're in a very unusual situation. So a lot of the resources are slowly coming in, or sometimes there's just no resources, right? Mm-hmm. So why would you risk going out there to a situation where there's no resources, where maybe you can stay in that home where it's not safe, but there's abuse, it's escalating, there's you're walking on eggshells, but at least you kind of know what to expect. And there's a lot of unknown right now in the situation we're living. So walking into that unknown is challenging.
And I want to say one more thing about the, why doesn't she just leave? That I think is often quite shocking, is that a victim is at greatest risk for being killed when she's leaving her abuser or after she's left. When you think about what domestic violence is about, which is about power control, that makes sense, because if the abuser is feeling that they're losing that power and control because their victim is leaving, they may well escalate it to the point of, well, if I can't have you, nobody will have you. And again, in the process of leaving the situation, after getting a temporary protective order, that is when the victim is at greatest risk for being killed. And the perpetrator has told the victim, if you leave me, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to hunt you down. If you go to your family's house, I know where they are. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill the children. I'm going to kill them. Leaving would be the dumbest thing that you could do, because you won't. I'll make sure that you won't survive it. Also, during COVID-19, that's being used against the victim. Sure, take my children to a shelter and get them exposed to this horrendous disease, and kill my children just because you can't put up with me, dealing with you being an idiot all the time. If you really, you wouldn't go and take your children to the shelter if you really loved them, like you said you did, because why would you want to expose them to that? So that can be another method used to shame and to convince the victim to stay in that relationship.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave me speechless. You guys have worked with me long enough to know that. And I heard what both of you said, and I want people to understand that somebody heard that right now and is saying to themselves, "There's no way that that somebody has said, if you leave me, I'm going to kill you and my kids." But Sam, that's something that you hear from survivors on a pretty regular basis. Am I wrong?
Correct. Survivors hear it so often that it can be found in a handout that we use called the Power and Control Wheel. The Power and Control Wheel was created by the Duluth model up in Minnesota, and it's entirely based on feedback from survivors describing the behaviors and what they hear from abusers. And so that's literally there. The threats of, if you leave me, I'm going to kill you. If you leave me, I'm going to hurt the children.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, just
you saw my silence again.
I hate to add bad to worse, but again, I think for folks that are watching and listening and kind of thinking about red flags, It's also fairly common for abusers to be abusive to the household pet. And what victims also often hear when there's abuse to the pet, and then they'll be told, you think that was bad? Wait till you see what I'm going to do to you. So that's another way to emphasize the danger that that person is putting themselves in if they think about leaving this abuser.
Nancy, one of our, oh, go ahead. You got something?
No, I was just going to say that with increasing numbers of domestic violence during this pandemic, we're also seeing increasing numbers of child abuse. So that's very important to keep in mind as well.
You know, Sam, one of the you touched on it earlier. You talked about a temporary protective order. Why is that so important for a survivor right now? Or just, and it doesn't necessarily have to be during COVID, right? Like, but why is a temporary protective order so important for clients and survivors?
Well, a protection order can work if, so we always ask the survivor that's applying, you know, because they know their abuser better than anybody else. They know what escalates the violence and what works in terms of de-escalating the violence. So we ask them, you know, is this document going to work or is this going to make things worse? And we hear them. And if you know, they have an abuser who may listen to law enforcement or obey law enforcement or obey an order, then we'll go ahead with it. But if we have an abuser who's violated probation several times, who's has been arrested before for domestic violence, I mean, clearly that may be someone who a protection order is, you know, they're not going to care that there's one. So, but in those situations where the survivor relates that it's a safe option for them, it does tend to de-escalate the violence. It is basically, so it's not a criminal order, it's a civil order that's the survivor is basically asking the court, you know, some help to keep this person away from them. Sometimes it's in order to stay away, or sometimes it's in order to not have any violent contact. But it can be a very helpful tool to stop the violence when it works. Yes.
Yeah, and
it can also give it can also require the abuser to leave the house so that the survivor is able to stay in the house and the children are able to stay in the house. And it can also give the survivor temporary custody of the children so that when the day comes when we can go back to school, that then the abuser would not be able, it provides protection for the children as well, that the abuser cannot have access to them.
That's an amazing point.
Yeah, and in terms of relief, like Nancy mentioned, during this time, we're really hoping that the courts can provide some of that child support, because one of your questions earlier, Jeff, was about challenges. I mean, there's a lot of challenges right now, financial challenges right now, and being able to maintain your safe housing right now. So through a protection order, there is relief where, you know, the court can order child support, can order, some type of support for that survivor while we're in the situation, basically. So
amazing point today, and I want to let the audience know that actually Friday's conversation will be specifically talking about our partnership that we have with the Fulton County Courthouse, and it's called the Safe Families Office, and part of that conversation will be myself, Sam, and one of her coworkers, or our coworkers, Jill, along with Joel from the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation. And so we've all come together to form what is known inside the Fulton County Courthouse as the Safe Families Office. And that our responsibility there is to literally help survivors kind of walk them through the process, and to be that hand to hold, right, while you're sitting in court. Sam talked about that support system, and if you don't come in with that support system, that's where we step in for you. So that'll be Friday's conversation. So I'm glad Sam didn't go too deep into temporary protective orders. But one of our other programs, I spoke earlier about our supportive housing being one of the fastest growing programs that we have in the organization. am I wrong to say that our teen dating violence program is by far the fastest growing program that we have within the organization? Is that a fair assessment?
I like to think so. It's an issue close to my heart. So yeah, I like to think so. They do a lot. The program has a lot of exciting pieces because it's a prevention program. So you do a lot of pieces of the program are about, yes, education, awareness, but also empowering young people to be peer leaders, peer educators, and bring this message to their communities. We engage adults and young people in the communication, in the conversation of healthy relationships. So you have that positive spin as well, learning about what is a healthy relationship, how do you work towards one, how do you advocate for one, and of course now we're doing a lot of some of our recent work has been in detention centers, to talking to really this program has a lot of it's facilitated in a lot of at-risk kind of groups and communities, but it doesn't mean that it's all about, like, we were talking about earlier, that such a negative kind of kind of dark conversation, but that you can talk about what is a healthy, how do you compromise with your partner, how do you talk respectfully with your partner, how do you and like, how do you set boundaries is so important for a healthy relationship. And then also learning about the resources if you ever find yourself in a situation of dating violence, or you have a friend who is in a dating violence situation, what do you do? What are the resources? So yes, it's an issue close to my heart. So yeah, I do think I do like to think that it's exponentially growing.
The next conversation is Sam's going to send me, hey, can we raise more money for teen dating violence? You said it was so fast, but it is one of the programs that's near and dear to my heart as well. And I think it centers for me around, because I'm a parent, and I think even before I would have come to PADV, I have two boys, and I would have never thought in my wildest dreams that they could have been victims of teen dating violence, right? And then, so to one, know that they can be victims of teen dating violence, and then two, how do I have that conversation with them if that happens, right? Like, Sam, we got some time for you to work with me here, because I still don't know how I would do it. But that, that program is amazing. And I think the best part about it to me is that education piece that goes to parents, right? How do we as parents and adults have conversations with the youth that are in our life, or whether it's our kids or our mentees or whatever, about what a healthy relationship looks like? Because unfortunately, and you share the statistic with me every time, and I always share it, that 1 in 3 teenagers are going to be a victim of teen dating violence, but 81% of parents don't know it's an issue for their kids. Yeah. Like, I mean, what more do we need to say about teen dating violence? Nancy, you're the mom of 2 awesome grown girls. What did you have to have that conversation with your girls about what a healthy relationship looks like?
Oh, absolutely. I talked with them a lot about it, and I talked with them from a very young age about it. And I think that's really important for parents to do. I don't think you can start too early. I admit that before my knowledge grew, when my girls were young and little boys would tease them or push them in the playground, I'd say, oh, that just means that they like you. Don't worry about it. And now I think back on that, and what am I teaching them? I'm teaching them that if a boy likes them, that it's okay for them to be mean and push. And I mean, I don't want to use the word abusive on kids, but kind of start those behaviors that we're seeing as teenagers and when they're dating. So I think from a very young age, we need to be telling our girls and our boys, this is your body. Nobody has the right to touch it if you don't want them to touch it. If somebody touches it and you feel bad about it, you tell somebody about it, and really teach them, again, from a very young age, about what a healthy, respectful relationship looks like.
Jeff, if you didn't know this, you've been in a parenting training since
Yeah,
you
obviously, like, because right now I'm doing this Facebook Live, and my son's walking in the door. Daddy, can I stay up here with you? And I'm like, no, right? So I think everybody is gonna see my face and go, no.
It's part of the new world, Jeffrey.
Yeah. It's been an amazing journey to be a part of. It's been a hard journey, but it's been an amazing journey. I'm glad both of you guys, again, we're going to talk about teen dating violence, I think in 2 weeks, maybe 2 Fridays from now.
Yes.
And so I'm excited about all the conversations we have. Let's just say that we're done. But that'll be a really great conversation, because we'll have both of our teen dating violence advocates that are going to be part of that conversation to really, really dive a little bit deeper into how parents have a conversation with their kids, right? Like, most of us today are teachers from 8 to 1 or whatever, and then we go do some form of work. But right now is an awesome opportunity for us as parents to begin having those conversations, because we're stuck at home with them. So
100%.
I've invited Jenny and Taylor, who are our teen dating violence advocates, on to again have that conversation. How Jeffrey, how are you supposed to have this conversation with your son, right? And he's 7 soon, so I'm assuming I can start having that conversation now, but I need a little bit more training.
Yeah.
Don't do that. See, no, you guys aren't going to judge me here today. This is
Facebook.
This is my Facebook Live.
We're gonna help.
We're a village, right? So, I do want to encourage, if you're watching right now, and you have a couple questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. If you'd like to support us for Giving Tuesday, I encourage you to do that. You're hearing about all the awesome work that we're doing as an organization, and it's not possible without your support, right? If you don't give, will the lights go off at PADV? No, but your gift kind of supercharges this organization's ability to expand more rapidly. We talked about the growth of teen dating violence. We talked about the growth of supportive housing. So that's what your gift is allowing, right? Your gift is allowing us to fast track ideas and programs. And so you're making an impact, and you're doing great work. So I encourage you to give to the organization today on Giving Tuesday. So like I said, ask questions if you got them. Hey, Ms. Cundiff from Sumter, South Carolina. Yes, we will come to Sumter, South Carolina and talk to your youth about teen dating violence.
That's my mother.
That's Mom. Hey, Mom. Hey, your daughter's amazing. So,
yes, my parents are watching. Hi.
Hey, so Miss Cundiff, yes, Giving Tuesday for you. Since Sam is already here, please donate, because Sam really wants to grow teen dating violence. So my next question to she says hi, Sam. Our next question, so the final question to both of you, is for Sam. Question is, why is it so important? Or excuse me, what's the one thing that you'd like to say to a survivor right
now? You're not alone. We may be social distancing and sheltering at home, but you're not alone. PADV's here. We're still serving survivors, and you can reach out to us.
Cool. Nancy, similar question. Also, Sam, your dad says hello as well. So she says hi, Dad. It's funny how our parents, and Nancy, you get it as well, because every time I put your picture up, your daughters are always the first people to share it. It's amazing how much family and parental support means to you. So we appreciate all the family that's watching us today. But Nancy, the last question I have for you is, what's one message you have for survivors that are thinking they're better off at home with their abuser than with PADV?
Think about, what do you want for the long term in your life? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your children? What do you want your children's memory of their childhood to be? And what do you want for yourself? And what do you need to do to get there? And we understand you can't get there all at once. Don't try to get there all at once, but think about, what's that first step? Is it calling the hotline? Is it when my husband is at work packing a bag with some clothing and personal identification papers and money and hiding it in my friend's house, so when I just can't take it anymore, I've got some resources available to me? Is it setting up a password with my kids, and when I yell that word, they know to run to the neighbors and call the police? But it doesn't have to be like this. You can be happy, you can be joyful, you can celebrate, you can laugh with your children. There is a bright light out there. Think about what your first step is.
And I always like to say, during this time of COVID, I've loved watching this organization, namely our staff, flex their muscles, man, and just say that we're going to stand on the front lines and we're going to be there for whatever survivor walks in the door, wherever they are, whatever they need, we're going to get it for them. And so I've really, really enjoyed watching our staff flex their muscles. And so if you are a survivor anywhere and you're needed of if you are in need of any of our services, I encourage you to visit our website today and just get in and really get to know the organization and call the crisis line, because we're here for you. We're here for you. And whatever it is that you think you need, this organization has the capacity and the resources to help you get there. And so I encourage you to visit our website. It's there, padv.org. And if there's a way that we can connect with you socially, all of our social media platforms are at PADV Atlanta. So feel free to connect with us on social, but just know, man, you're not in it alone. PADV is here for you. And we have a network of resources, and we will bend over backwards to make sure that you move from victim to victor. And so I appreciate Nancy and Sam. I appreciate you guys for joining me again today. I appreciate all the family that's in the comment section today. Sam, make sure you hug your mom and your dad because they love you, because they've said it several times in the comment section. And anybody else that's watching with us today, we just appreciate you guys. If there's something that PADV can do for you, feel free to call us, reach out to us. We're here to support you. Thank you guys for watching. Absolutely. And we'll see you Friday at 10 a.m. to talk about temporary protective orders with the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye. Bye.